Hey, how's it going? Jeff Lerner here. And in this video, we are talking about how to be more likable. I'm driving, so I'm not off to a great start for likability because I'm not going to be able to make much eye contact, which is like one of the things you're supposed to do when you're trying to build rapport with people. But that aside, I am going to talk about how to be likable and specifically to approach it as a skill and something that you can work on, not just say, well, you know, you need to be more likable, but like how can you actually do it? And what are really the reasons and the benefits? So let's talk about it. Okay, so likability. Now, first of all, let's just call out the elephant in the room. In shooting a video about being likable, there's this like just under the surface sort of undertone of like, be likable, Jeff. It's a video about likability, so you have to be likable or else it'll fall flat. But then it's like, well, don't try too hard to be likable, because if you try too hard, then you're less likable. And it's like this whole awkward it's like an MC Escher drawing that just loops back on itself and self-destructs, and whatever. It is what it is. I'm going to try to be objective and not try too hard to be likable, to just objectively talk about likability. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, moving on. So here's the thing about being likable. Like, it's actually a skill. And I will say, and I'm sure this will, somebody will think this is funny and, want to like tease me about it, but I've worked really hard on being likable in this world as a skill. Like, it's not something like being tall, where you're just born with the genes to be tall. Like, likability is a thing. It's more like, I don't know, basket weaving or, archery, or like it's a skill you practice, or swimming with good form, doing the proper breaststroke. Likability is like a skill. And I guess to be a little personal, when I was a kid, I was like super awkward and super struggled. And I remember going away one summer between my sophomore and junior year. It was sophomore, junior year. I went on like this backpacking expedition with all these kids up in the Northwest US. And it was like I had this reset, because it was all new kids, and it wasn't like the same kids from my high school. And it was almost like, hey, I can try on a whole new personality. Like, I don't have any baggage. I can try again. And I had the best time. I had the best summer. It was like, I almost realized, like, wait, whatever you present to people, they accept. They don't know what's really going on inside. They accept you. And it sort of like turned into this whole experiment where it grew into, like, as I got older, I'm like, okay, human beings, like, we all tend to think that we are the center of everyone else's attention just because we're the center of our own attention. But the reality is, they're the center of their attention. You're the center of your attention. And at the end of the day, people just want to feel good. They just want to feel heard and respected and validated and non-threatened and, understood. And so there must be a skill to that, right? And it kind of began this path of study that ultimately, when I was 28 and I got into a business that involved selling, I realized, okay, if I want to sell, like, first and foremost, and I read books on the matter, and I was like, people got to like me. Being liked doesn't make people buy from you, but being disliked absolutely stops people from buying from you, whatever it is that you're selling. So learn to be likable, right? Okay, well, how do you do that? And here's the ironic thing about it. Likability and authenticity are connected. This is the first rule of likability. Be yourself. Stop trying to be someone else. Be yourself. Now, I don't think of it in terms of like, well, am I what if people don't like me so much, but then if I'm going to be myself more, then are people going to like me less because they didn't like me before when I was myself? No, we're all like a full spectrum of characteristics. And the way I describe this, and I guess maybe I should take a step back and sort of establish, my foundation for why I'm even having this conversation is, look, I've been selling stuff for 12 years now on the internet through personally branded funnels, like funnels that have me talking. And I've sold $40 million worth of stuff almost exclusively through funnels of me talking. And given that if people don't like you, they don't buy from you. What I can say then is, whether I'm the most likable guy in the world or not, I've at least been able to create enough likability or enough liking that people have been willing to buy $40 million worth of stuff from me. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if money is necessarily the best metric of likability, but it's a good metric of non-dislikability. Like I said, like if people don't like you, then they're not buying from you. So the fact that they are means at least you're not making them dislike you. So I guess that's my credential. You know, it's not like you can go get a degree in being personable or likable. So I don't know what a credential would be, but that's my best attempt at a credential for talking about likability. That and the fact that by nature I am deeply introverted, deeply shy, and have really, really consciously had to work at developing the ability to connect with people, and to get out of my shell, and really to get out of my own way, and to just sort of be authentically myself, to put down the insecurities and the fear that stop a lot of people from having the genuine connection that can convert into actually growing a business, growing a brand, growing a message, growing a sphere of influence, heck, just growing friendships, which that in and of itself was a struggle for me. That's the thing about likability. Like I said, it's not about being different from who you are. We you know, as human beings who tend to personalize negative experience, and we convert judgment into shame, and we convert failure into shame, and we convert a lot of just negativity into shame, and kind of make it like, oh, there's something flawed about me. We have this tendency to think that there's something fundamentally unlikable about us, and that we need to hide it, or we need to change it in order to, you know, to kind of charm or schmooze people. But what I have found is that, you know, whether you call it vulnerability, you call it transparency, you call it authenticity, you call it innocence, just the more you are yourself in a very open way, the more people seem to respond and resonate, and even frankly appreciate it. They go, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one who's a little uncomfortable, or a little uneasy, or a little scared, or a little nervous, or a little shy. Like I resonate with this guy because he's so naturally not smooth, for lack of a better term. You know, I can relate to this guy. Okay, I like him. Yeah, let me do some business with him. You know, I'll call him next time I need to build a website, or whatever the business is that you're doing. So that's really the starting point, is to let go of the idea that you need to be any different than who you are. I would argue that you just need to be more transparently who you are, and that you need to decide that becoming likable, or being more likable, is a real skill. It's like getting better at math, or, you know, if you want to be an athlete, you need to increase your vertical jump. If you want to be in business, you need to increase your likability. If you want to be in medicine, you need to increase your likability. I guarantee you that, you know, the doctors that make the most money in a given market are not necessarily the people that got the highest score on their MCAT, or the people who can, you know, cut a straight line the straightest with a scalpel. They're probably the people who have, at least in part, the best bedside manner, the best relationships with their employees and their staff, because then they have the best culture and the best energy in their office. They're positive. They know how to set people at ease. They know how to glide through difficult conversations. They know how to not seem, you know, stilted or uncaring in delivering tough news. Like, those are the skills that drive success in medicine to some degree, success in business to a large degree, success in anything, success in life. So deciding that it's important, and frankly, I say that because as an entrepreneurial coach, you know, I talk to a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to start a business, and I want to make money on the internet, or I want to make money in real estate, or I want to, you know, it's usually like I want to make money in reaction to something else that I don't like about my life. I don't like my job. I don't like my business. I don't like what I'm stuck doing with my time. So I want to start a new thing to make some money. And it's okay. Well, you know, as a starting point, let's work on your personality, because, like, would you do business with you? Honestly, if you met you in a store, would you go, I love the way this guy makes me feel. The energy in this store is amazing. Like, I can't wait to spend my money here. I mean, so, you know, and you ask people that, they're like, well, you know, screw that. That's why I want to do an online business, because I don't want to have to be a part of it. I just want the internet to do the work. And it's like, maybe in like 2009 or even 2014, you can have some faceless, anonymous online brand that sold crappy products that were, you know, imported straight, processed right off AliExpress, and quality didn't matter, and personality didn't matter, and brand didn't matter, and customer service didn't matter, and you could get away with all that. But now, like, who you are is always going to permeate whatever business you try to do. Service business, product business, offline business, online business, transactional, long-term continuity business. It's not going to matter. Who you are is going to suffuse that business. It's going to be a part of the success of that business, and you better decide that working on your likability is a specific metric in your business. And until you realize that and make that decision, you're going to neglect it, and it's not going to move the needle. So, assuming you're with me on that, you decide that it does matter, and then let's talk about some concrete things that you can actually do about it. First of all, the easiest way to be likable is just to be excited. In the culture we live in, there's kind of this like jaded, cynical, like, I watch too much like sketch comedy, Kids in the Hall, kind of, droll, almost like emo personality type, where like the only things funny are depressing, and like it's a real thing in our culture. And so there's this tendency, this kind of this cynical, it's like an internet-driven cynicism to be like, let's make fun of the excited guy, right? Like let's make skits that make fun of people that are the motivational speaker, or the super positive guy, or the nerdy therapist that tries to make me forget my problems, or however we characterize it. But the reality is, like, the excited guy usually wins. In this world, at a superficial level, people act like they're too cool to be excited, but at a deep level, they long for it. They long for positive energy. They long for enthusiasm. They long for optimism. And by the way, optimism is just better practice. It's a more practical way of being in this world than the other. And for reasons I don't need to go into in this video, but like, there's a whole school of psychology that teaches optimism as a pragmatic strategy for getting better results in this world. Like, this isn't just something that Jeff the excited guy made up. So for one, just be excited. And if you're not doing things that excite you, do different things. This idea of like, let me shove a square peg in a round hole and persist in doing something that I hate. Figure out why you hate it and change it. It doesn't mean you have to change the thing, but it definitely means you need to change how you are in so doing the thing, or else the result is never going to change. Hate is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Misery is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Optimism and positivity are also self-fulfilling prophecies. They feed on themselves. Get excited. Then as far as some more, so that's sort of like some general guidance about likability. Look, the fact is, I was kind of a cranky bastard in my 20s, and my life kind of sucked. My business definitely sucked. I never made more than 40 grand in a year. Didn't have a lot of friends. Didn't even really like myself too much. Tended to like yo-yo with some vices and depressive habits, and like I'd gain weight, and my physical health all kind of sucked. And I came across some different people in my late 20s that, among many things, they modeled a general enthusiasm about life, and it was contagious. And I changed my attitude, and I can say that since then, I have different relationships. I mean, it's easy to go, I made $40 million on the internet, and like I did, that's pretty awesome. But different people, met my wife, have great kids, have actual friendships, love what I do for a living. I get to make an impact and get paid for it. And I'm happier. I'm motivated. I take good care of myself. I'm in good shape. And it's not like a chore to stay that way, because it feels good. And I like things that feel good because I'm a positive person now, and positive people like things that are actually good for them. It's not like it doesn't require so much willpower. It's just becomes kind of more of who you are. Like, whatever your motivations are for becoming more likable in the world, even if it feels like it's like this, I'm gonna manipulate people. I'm gonna trick them into thinking that I like them, even when I don't. Deep down, I'm gonna stay the cynical, dark person, but superficially, I'm gonna pretend to be happy and excited and likable, and then I'll do better business, and I'll make more money. And wait, what's happening to me? Oh my gosh, I'm actually starting to feel good. It's like I smiled enough that my muscles got used to it, and now I kind of like the way this feels, and I'm not so angry anymore, and people don't bug me so much anymore. And oh my gosh, it seems like the more I do of it, the more I lean into it, the more people want to do business with me, and the more did I actually just make a friend? Man, I wasn't even trying to. Like, hey, I actually have a friend now that I think isn't just my friend because of what he wants from me, but because I can't even figure out what he wants from me. Maybe he just likes the way it feels to be around me because I seem to be more happy now. And man, this all started out just as a manipulation because I wanted to make more money and I thought I was going to fake everyone out. But I think I might actually be growing into it. Being likable is cool in that way. It fits. So the outfit fits. So you'll want to keep wearing it. It fits really, really well. It's like manufactured by Lululemon or something. I don't know. It just hugs you the right way. Anyway, that's all a very general way of saying, like, be likable and be excited about being likable and recognize that it's good strategy, but that doesn't mean that it's a con. It means that it's because it actually works in a way that's healthy for you. And then a few like actual strategies around likability. First of all, names. To this day, I hosted an event almost 3 years ago in Chicago, and there were about 55 people in the event. I was hosting a session after lunch, and so I took the entire lunch hour and I sat with our member services girl, and I had her go around with me and make sure that I knew everybody's name at the event. It's about 55 people. And to open the session, then after lunch, I had an hour, I'd been kind of prepping for it. I went around the room and I said, hey, how was your lunch, so-and-so? And then how was your lunch, so-and-so? And how was your lunch, so-and-so? And I went around the room and I asked 55 different people, how was their lunch by name? And it took like the first 10 minutes of the presentation. Honestly, I could have just sat down. The presentation might as well have been over at that point. I had made my point. Human connection is how you win hearts. People love when you know their name, especially if you can remember the name of their kids or their pets. Hey, Sue, how are you? Yeah, and how's little Billy? And how's, Molly May? Oh, is she recovering? I remember she hurt her foot. Is she feeling better? Oh man, you tap into that kind of stuff, you're off the charts. But at the very least, remembering names. So here's something I have absolutely conditioned myself, drilled myself into doing religiously when I meet people. First of all, I ask their name twice at the beginning of the conversation. So you introduce, hey, I'm Jeff. And they say, oh, I'm Bill. Hey, Bill, how's it going? And then a few seconds later, a few minutes, a little bit into the conversation, I want to say something like, Bill, right? Just get them to reaffirm the name. Partly because I want them to know, even if I remember the name for sure, I want them to know that I think names are important. Because I do think names are important. And just that repetition of cementing the name that one more time is going to more than, I believe, double the likelihood that you'll actually remember it. Then at the end of the conversation, circle up on it again. Hey, so listen, man, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I want to make sure that the next time we meet, we can pick it up and we don't have to have that awkward reset where I forgot your name. It's Bill, right? Bill. Awesome, Bill. Great talking to you. I'll see you whenever, right? Like, loop back to it multiple times, and it's not this awkward thing. The fact is, people are, what you'll find 90% of the time, literally 90% of the time that I do this, people go, oh yeah, that's right. Or yeah, it's Bill. And wait, your name was again, and you realize 90% of the people you're talking to, worrying about whether or not you remember their name, they already forgot your name. You're doing them a favor, and you're highly increasing the likelihood that you're actually going to remember their name next time you see them, which is going to score you major points. And then the last tip, the last strategic tip that I'm going to leave you with is you want your encounter to be memorable. Again, I say this is probably the quote that I quote the most in all quotes that I quote. People forget what you say, forget what you do. They never forget how you make them feel. Maya Angelou said that. So you want to do something memorable. You want to make people feel something, anything really. And I would say this about first impressions. People never forget that you made them feel. Like, first impressions are typically pretty small talk based. And small talk, I used to hate small talk. I used to think that as a card carrying introvert, I was so much better than small talk. And it was this unnecessary, piddling little thing that, the average people did, and I was so deep, and I just wanted to get right to the deep conversation. The fact is, people aren't going to open up to you unless you small talk. It's like, there's a sexual metaphor to be made for sure. It's like just seriously jumping the gun. You got to start with small talk. And so I used to be totally against it. Now I'm all about it. Small talk is a great. It's how you connect to people in a way that doesn't make them feel threatened or pressured or insecure or intimidated. But what you run the risk of is that all small talk means no feeling. So the simple fact of making them feel anything in your first interaction without having it be too threatening or too much, too overwhelming, or seem out of safety. It's like if people that feel too much too quickly are unsafe, right? But you do want to have them feel something, and that's what I mean about having some sort of memorable experience. And so what I find is that the name thing is a great opportunity to do that. You can connect with people in an initial conversation around the fact that you suck at remembering names. You have at least found comfort in knowing that most other people suck at remembering names too. So you're gonna, work together to make sure that the two of you and the other person are at least a safe place you can come back to someday, knowing, hey, if we accomplish nothing else in our first conversation, at least we got clear on each other's names. Like, people can kind of relate and connect to that, just kind of have a little moment about it. And so again, these are like dorky little things that I have found that they work. So they're, it ain't broke. Don't knock it until you try it, kind of a thing. And then the final sort of strategery that I have around being likable actually comes down to icebreakers. And I call this the triple threat icebreaker. So my intent with this was, I was like, okay, I know people like talking about themselves, but usually there's something to this whole idea of I want them to feel something. I want them to have something memorable about me from the exchange. So I want to get that part out of the way so that I don't want the memorable thing about me to be, I remember that guy, he talked about himself the whole time. I want it to be more like, oh yeah, that was interesting. He said something, that piqued my interest. But then they felt like, I really like that guy because, they won't say this to themselves, but I like the way it felt because he let me talk about me the whole time. He asked me good questions. So the way I accomplish that is basically with the opener, with an icebreaker. And people love it when you break the ice because then they don't have to. Hold on, this is my exit. You can kind of make your point. You can make your stamp in that first moment, and now it's done, and now you can move on to talking about them. So a lot of times I like to lead with something like, hey, my name's Jeff. I saw you standing over here. Or, let's say you're at a party, right? I saw you standing here. Yeah, you look like you might know one more person here than I do, right? And you say, oh yeah, okay. Anyway, my name's Jeff. So I am an awesome life evangelist. And I'm curious, what do you think is the most important part of having an awesome life? So right there, they're like, that's probably a conversation they've never had before. They've probably never had anybody introduce themselves as an awesome life evangelist. And here's the thing. So it's breaking the ice, taking that onus on yourself, finding a way to introduce yourself in a way that's unique, that has character, and that actually leads into an interesting question that they'll remember more how you introduced yourself because how you introduced yourself actually tied into an interesting question. So now the whole time that they're answering the question of what they think is an important piece of having an awesome life, what they're doing is they're reminding themselves that I'm the awesome life guy. So I'm making my point while letting them talk about themselves in an interesting way, because it's always going to be interesting to them because it's them. They're talking about themselves, and most people tend to find themselves somewhat interesting. See how that works? It's kind of clever. Anyway, I have no idea how long this video has been because I can't see the timer, but I'm getting the feeling that it's time to wrap it up. So I hope that has been helpful. A little bit of guidance on being likable. Why should I be likable? Why is this Jeff guy talking about likability? Because it's part of having an awesome life. And remember, as I just said, I'm the awesome life guy. My channel is about having an awesome life. My videos are about having an awesome life. All my content's around having an awesome life. And if you want to have an awesome life, you should subscribe and watch more of my videos. Make sure you click the bell so you get notified as new videos come about. And ask me questions. Like, literally, ask me anything. If it's related to having a more awesome life, I want to talk about it. If you have ideas for me to make videos about or questions you'd like me to answer, that'd be amazing. Leave a comment below. I appreciate your time, and I will see you on the next video.